Welcome back to Kerbal Space Program, and we're on the surface of Kerbin, Minimus still, and we need to get back to our lab. So why don't we engage the autopilot and let's see if this can take off from Minimus. Will you do the job? We'll see very shortly. Looks like it is. Okay, so it's going to head straight east, and we should be going into a 100-kilometer orbit. Do we want 100 kilometers? Where is our space station? It's expedition. Can I get? I can't see that. Let me just change this to, say, I don't know, 20? Just realized it's heading entirely the wrong direction, and we're going to go this way now. Well, we are in... In fact, let's disengage and engage the autopilot. Is that still the same place? It is. Okay. So it's going to head... Are we heading for the... Yep, that's our periaps. That's fine. And engines. Alright. We can just bring our gear back in now. We don't need them. There we go. And we're on our way towards our chosen orbit. 20 kilometers should do us. And that is well inside... Expedition 6, which is over here. So now we're going to need to think of a rendezvous. So once we get up to an orbital, I'll plot a rendezvous and bring you back for that. Okay, so as you can see here, I brought our orbit up so that we're catching up with the space station, which is here, and we're just inside of it, just enough that we'll be able to catch up relatively quickly on each orbit. And then around the other side here, I've plotted a maneuver that will bring us around 200 meters away from the space station at closest approach. So that is right about here. MechJeb is doing the maneuvering, and it's just ahead of us. This is the sort of distance you want in the orbits when you want a rendezvous. And we definitely don't have MechJeb doing any of that rendezvous plotting or anything like that. We're doing all of that manually. So I'll see you when we're close to the space station, I think. And here we are, so the usual approach applies here. We're going to wait till we are a little bit closer. So let's just speed up time. We want to get to around 800 or so, or closer than we are at the moment anyway. So yeah, we're under 1,000 now. That should be sort of roughly enough. So target, we're on target mode, as you might expect. Switch to SAS. Look at retrograde, and we are just going to decelerate ourselves just so that we are nicely positioned regarding to our target. So that doesn't take very long at all. There we go. And then we're just going to point directly at our target, I think. And yeah, directly at the target. And let's see if we can get a whole lot closer than this. All right, that's all we need. And now you'll see our target is at 0 in 2 minutes 34. So to anticipate for that, I'm going to spin ourselves around so that we are pointing backwards and our engines will slow us down. And of course, we need to come in a little bit closer. So let's just get that a little bit closer. 700, 600, 500. Very quickly approaching. And we are going to miss, of course. If we didn't miss, that would be a little bit more unfortunate. But I want retrograde. I don't want exactly target now that we're close enough for this. And we can bring ourselves to a halt just with a little bit of engine applied so that we're not too far away. Now, of course, we can dock. That's no problem for us to do so. But if we want to dock, we're going to have to disengage that engine block. 1 second, let me just bring ourselves to a halt. There we go. We'd have to disengage that engine block from the station, or we'd have to separate the return craft from the station. Both of those are fine, but once we separate the return craft, remember that that's the thing that's got control. That's where our pilot is. And we wouldn't have the use of any of the engines, and I'm not sure if the other staff on the station can fly too well. So we've got a scientist and a pilot. So if we've got a scientist, then we may as well go and grab all of our data. There we go. Let go. Turn on our RCS. And why don't we go for a little bit of a trip? Let's just go straight over to the lab. Here we come. And there is a door on this lab. I'm almost sure there is. Let me just turn on the lights. There we go. And the door's on top, I think. There we are. Okay, and we come. Grab and board. All right. So now, if we right-click on the lab, we should have some data available. Why don't we have data? Start research. I definitely brought the data across. Does that not work? It's strange if I have to merge crap. Maybe I just have to review the data. Ah, there we go. Okay, so process in the lab. Fine, it doesn't happen automatically. So let's just start doing that. And I'll just move this to the side so you can see how much data we have. And we can fill that up, I think. I think we had enough. Oh, no. Well, not good enough to fill it up. But at a rate of 8 science per day, that's what we'll chew through this data and get that science. Now, before I decide to do that, what I think I probably want to do is just to maneuver back to our other ship, our science ship, and we've got to decide what we want to do with that. I think we could benefit by just keeping 2 scientists on board there, which means this one should probably come home as well. So I'm probably going to retract everything and then we'll think about bringing that home. And the same thing is true for this. We can bring back the sort of home pod and leave the science up here. And then maybe we should bring back another sort of module to fit on the front of this, or indeed on the back. Not quite decided which yet. So let's get these all backed up and get ready to go home. And then we shall be able to time warp forwards and get some science. And there goes our poor space station flying away from us, even at 0.1 meters per second relative to the target of 0.7 now. It's still far, far different, or far away from where we are. Of course, now it's time for this craft to leave Minimus behind. So we shouldn't have any danger of collision now. We just had to wait to get out of the way, and off we go back towards Kerbin. And in comes our first ship back towards Kerbin. We're going to do the usual here. We're going to bring ourselves back down to normal. Let's go, back down to normal time. Switch ourselves to normal, and we're going to get rid of the other part of the craft. That means we can come in back retrograde again and speed up towards the atmosphere. We're not going to try and hit the space center this time. We're just going to recover our craft because the main thing here for us to gain lots of science that we're then going to be using for other purposes. Let me just bring in those solar panels before they burn off. The other purposes being we need that big antenna for getting to Jewel, which is in 9 days. I don't think we're going to do it. I think it's going to have to wait for the next trip. But we've got some other places we could go. So let's wait until we are ready to deploy our parachutes. In fact, let's just skip this entirely and we'll jump back to the other craft where we have to undock from the station. And here we are back up at the station, and we have probably, well, we could stay here and gather the science. We don't need to go back with Jeb just yet, but we're going to need more pallets on the ground. So let's just see if how good this is. If I just accelerate time forwards. In fact, did I start the research? So if you press start research, that's one of the other reasons why I want the large solar panels, depending on how much research we get. There you see, there's our science growing. So obviously that's not growing very fast, so we can increase the speed. And that's one science, but you can see just how much time it's taking. So it's going to take a little bit of time. So we are going to miss these windows. Not much I can do about that, but it is gaining science slowly. And I'm going to skip forwards. Okay, so we've missed the transfer window for Jewel and for, what was the next one up? Moho, I think. But you see we've got 311 science now. So once we go back in the sun, I think I've got more than enough batteries to do this anyway. Electric charge, let's wait until we're in the sun. There we go. Yep, and let's transmit that science back. Starting transmission. Sending data. We can improve that speed. And that data should be done. So is that showing up on our science meter? It is. 500 science. Good. So now we can continue to just leave this up here. and continue to research, of course. So I just want to test a few things then. Let's just detach our pilot module. Let's decouple. There we go. So Jeb is now separate. And we're going to have to turn on our engines. So, oh, where's my fuel? That's not good. Where's my fuel? This is, oh, is it? Oh, I remembered. I remembered to disable the tanks. Thank you. I knew. Sometimes I'm smarter than I think I am. And then forget. So it cancels out. In any case, we can move away from the station. There we go. We need a very small amount. And let's just go back here. Can they steer this? No, it's locked because there is nothing that consists of a probe. So we'll have to bring back another module back up here if we want to move this station. But that is fine because we're only interested at the moment in this little pod. So again, just like normal, we can plot the return from a moon. We've already done this many times manually, so let's just create and execute a automatic. Ooh, that's not necessarily a good one. Although we'll fly past the moon, which will give us a bit of... which side is that? Oh, I can't really tell from here. May either accelerators or decelerators, which depending on which side of the moon we're actually on. And we'll head back to Kerbin with our second craft. And it's actually fine. We would only have hit the moon on the way out. I was misreading the lines. So we are perfectly fine to come in close to Kerbin. What's our periaps like? 213. We do need to think about reducing that. So let's turn retrograde. And it's probably a mix of retrograde in another direction for now, but we can still do it. Sorry about the noise. These engines are noisy. And just a little bit. There we go. So 29 is perfectly fine. And we'll, of course, warp in towards the planet. Warp here. And in it comes. And we're going to do the same as before. We actually might get a daytime landing this time. Ish. 29. So in it comes. Are we going to do anything much with this? I think let's just get rid of it now, shall we? There's no further need for it. So we're going to get rid of the bottom stage. And back we go to retrograde. Point at the surface vector. And I don't think I'm going to need all that electric charge, but I'll just bring in our solar panels when we hit the top of the atmosphere. Yeah, it's heading towards nighttime again. It always is. I never managed to get daytime whenever I want one. So in they come, folding up. And then we've got our usual parachute set up, which shouldn't be a surprise at this point. So let's just bring ourselves into the atmosphere. And then physical time warp forwards. And Jeb should be okay. We've got enough power? Yes, we do. No problems there. And we've still got a little bit of daytime. But heading towards the Terminator. And some mountains. There goes the rest of our engines. But that is perfectly fine as well. And in we come towards the surface. We can, of course, then drop our drogues. Which will slow us right down as well. And speed up to physical time warp again. We can drop our main chute. And of course that should bring us down towards the surface. And once they fully deploy, we can decide whether to drop the heat shield or not. It should bring us in a little bit safer, but it shouldn't be much of an issue either way. We're dropping towards 200 meters per second. And we should be deploying our drogues fully. Yep, there we go. That's down to 33. And then our main chutes should deploy thereafter. Sorry. Which is right there. And what have we got? 10? Let's drop the heat shield. 8. 9-ish. Maybe we should leave more parachutes on. Well, I've got the actual... I've got the reserves. That'll bring us down to 5. That's more than half fine. I forgot about that. I actually had a separate group for the reserves. And yeah, so all those parachutes are happily bringing us in. Sort of annoying that they cross over each other instead of like being alongside each other, but we've got no problems there. And we pop down onto the surface. There we go. Jeb's back. Is there anything, any science you can do here? Surface sample, I guess. I mean, It's not going to be huge, a huge amount, really, is it? But it'll do us. So recover vessel, and now we should have over 500 sites, which will get us one of those nodes. More importantly, it will get us the really big antenna node, which is what we've been working towards all this time. So let's go and take a look at that antenna node. It should be 573 science. Yeah, there we go. And it is over here somewhere. So probably in here. Signals intelligence site, rendezvous and docking. Nope, it's not that one. It's not that one. It's that one. It's the RA100. And there's also Communitron 8888, which, how good is that by comparison? Actually, they're both the same, except that this one, is this direct? Yes, it is. So it won't act as a relay. So if we wanted to send like a manned ship out there, this would be ideal. But if we wanted an automated ship out there, we want the relay, because if anything else goes out there, well, being able to communicate back with Kerbin is a very nice idea. There's also a mechanical Jeb pod, so I guess interesting, a manned remote pilot assist available, and another drone core. That's generally for the space plane side of things. So we're going to spend 550. Oof, that's quite a lot. And we're going to buy that part, and we're going to buy that part because we want both of those definitely. And then the next nodes up. Yeah, those are all space Y. So we're going to need more science, of course, and that will probably be done by creating something to go off to one of the other planets. So here's our Expedition 6 launcher. This is the one with the lab on board. Do we actually want that lab, though? You know? What about the Expedition 5? So if I'm going to go off to someone like Eve again, what I actually want to do is stop having to get out of this thing and go and collect all the science from the various modules. So if we're going to do that, what I want is to get this regular bay and see if I can get the experiment storage module in here. Science bay, there we go. So which one are we going to give up? Well, we don't need the press mat. So if the press mat's still in here, we don't need it. Spectral imaging platform, orbital telescope, soil moisture. Well, we're not going to need the soil moisture sensor for orbit around Eve, because we've been there before, but we didn't have all this science then. So we can put the science bay back, open the bay doors, and let's just temporarily get rid of the rocket so we can take a look at this. And let's see, can we fit the experiment storage module in there? That's sort of... Someone suggested that I put it in here. I could, but it would stick through the heat shield. It's far too big for that, I think. Which is unfortunate. It's really unfortunate. I was kind of hoping that I would be able to use that. Surface scanning module I don't think we need. So let's just drop that. Surface ablation, we shouldn't need that either. And I don't think we need the seismic accelerometer. Technically, we can just stick this on the side, but then, you know, it's got problems. So I think what I may do is drop this, and we're going to go sort of Gemini-like. I'd prefer if there was some kind of cone that I could put in without procedural parts or something, but I think I'm going to put an extra couple of parachutes on here, and we're going to make sure we're on one symmetry. And we're going to put them like this. Okay, so let's just make sure that we can get out of this side, and then we make sure all of those maybe in two separate groups. Yeah, there we go. So we've got two separate deployments, and of course we can move this up, and we may need I'm not sure. I need to look it up. Anyway, that is another expedition, and then this should be very, very safe from anything else. Do we have anything structural I can actually use with that? Aerodynamics, maybe. Aerodynamics. There are cones, but, well, not that size. Something to make this look a little bit better. Not really. I mean, that does not look good. So it'll have to look like a Mercury Gemini kind of thing, and this is the most valuable part. It does, however, mean, I suppose, we could think about putting an antenna on it. and maybe even additional solar panels. So if we want electrical, we're not going to be able to fit the giant ones on there, but we can put the 1x6s. And again, we'll just put them on this side so they're not blocking. That will cause torque issues, but hopefully not too bad. And I know they're sticking a little bit, they're a little bit off center, but should be okay. And do they already get selected? No, they don't. So we need to toggle those, toggle these. 1x6, 1x6. I also want to toggle the 3x2s on the same key. There we go. And is there anything else? Probably not. In fact, we don't even need... This is going to be... We're not landing on Eve. Because this thing just wouldn't take off. So that is fine. Nice and, well, lighter anyway. And we've got lots of the extra science. We are, however, still going to need a scientist. Definitely a scientist. In fact, let's get Valentino or Jeb. Jeb came back, so we may as well use him. Oh no, we have no scientist. And I don't want to buy... Well, I think I've got the funds to buy one now. They were about 200 grand, weren't they? So let's just, first of all, put this back together and make sure that it all works before we go and buy one. So, there we go. Everything should work as normal. So, main engines, separation, fairings, AJ-10, rocket, nuclear rocket, separation, all the parachutes. Good. Expedition 5 is okay. Let's leave. Grab ourselves an astronaut, well, an astronaut who's a scientist, and he's going to get, he or she is going to get experience while they're out there. So, do we have a scientist? Yes, Fredold. Fredold is both courageous and stupid. Exactly what we want, but he's going to cost us 277,000. Well, Fredold, let's hope you're worth your money. Okay, so launchpad. Let's launch the Expedition 5. Get rid of everyone else other than... In fact, let's just send Val. Val and Fredold. There we go. And launch. In fact, we're not going to launch just yet. We're actually going to go to the tracking station. And then we're going to go across to Minimus orbit because we're going to go and get the rest of that science. We just left it out there. Minimus, there we go, Expedition 6. Hopefully it can still work without the pilot module. Well, that is just fine for me if it does. Out we come. Go and see how our astronauts are actually doing. Well, when the game decides to tell me. Ah, there we are. So, Gable and Bob are here. And let's see how they're doing. So, it's researching. It's operational. But I can't actually... Oh, I can't transmit it without the pilot module. That's really annoying. Okay, note to self for future. Also include a probe module whenever you do this. Okay, we will send another one back out there to collect it. But for the time being, I'll just push time forwards because they will quite happily produce the science. We just can't do anything with it yet. So, yeah, excuse the slight flashing. And we'll push this forwards. Because we're heading towards the transfer window with Eve, and there's not much else to do here. So, in fact, we should probably have to do this. I'm not sure if it still works from the ground. I imagine it does, but that is all fine. We've filled up now. And we've come down from around 500 to about 300. So, that's 200 data, or science as you traditionally think of it, being turned into 1,000. So 5 times whatever you've got on your ship seems pretty good to me. And unfortunately, yeah, we're going to need a probe module up here. So that's going to need to come back and redock, but that's another challenge for us. And we don't need to do it just now, except when we want that science. So how close are we? 67 days. Fine, let's get back to the Space Center. And we can fast forward the rest of the time there, and then I'll see you on the, well, maybe not on the launch pad, but yeah, let's fast forward and I'll see what I can do. In fact, we're just about out of time there, so we'll leave the next Eve trip to the next episode, and I will rebuild an expedition craft to go back over to that station, and I'll do that off camera. I may just show you at the start of next episode just the docking of it, just so you've got an idea of the nav ball indicator, which is Navy Fish's docking port alignment indicator, I should say, which is really, really good for docking. And then from there, we'll transmit the science back. Maybe, I think, we're going to get the rendezvous stuff from MechJeb. That's always fun because it just makes it easier to rendezvous. Once you've done a rendezvous once or twice, it's not really that hard. It's just rendezvous and docking. Certainly, rendezvous is just slightly annoying just to set up. You have to bring yourself within a certain orbit of the other craft. You got to wait for a little while for you to catch it up. Create a maneuver node. It's always the same every time. So I try to cut that out with MechJeb when we're not doing the same thing over and over, just so you're seeing new stuff really. And that means it's down here somewhere, I think. And I can never find it when I actually want it. There it is. So rendezvous and docking, that's part of this node, which also gives us a signal intelligence satellite, and the Hex 2, which will form the best sort of probe for our future automated craft. And that's probably the one, once I spend this, it's probably going to be the one that I'm going to use to head out to Juno with. We'll build a craft around that for the automated side of things. All right? So I hope you enjoyed this episode. Feel free to like, subscribe, share if you have. And of course, next episode, we hope to join you, well, you hope you join me for some more Kerbal Space Program out in the outer solar system, maybe towards Joule, but more than likely Eve first. And as always, guys, thanks for watching.